This is the Aston Martin DBX, and this is the new Apple CarPlay Ultra. Yep, not content with owning your ears and your eyeballs and your desktops and your wrists, Apple wants to take over your car too. Apple first announced this next generation CarPlay software way back in 2022, and then it all went a bit quiet until two videos were released at its 2024 Worldwide Developers Conference, offering more details on what it would look like and how it would work. And now, in spring 2025, we finally got our hands on it, in an Aston Martin. Okay, so in a bit I'm going to be parking up and taking you through absolutely all the new functions and features in this CarPlay system. But first, we need to talk about the elephant in the room, because not all manufacturers are that happy with this new CarPlay system. Ola Källenius, the CEO of Mercedes, recently went on record to say the idea of another company taking over all the screens in his cars was a big fat no from him, which is why Apple's been beavering away in the background, taken longer than they initially hoped to try and create that level of customization to keep all these different manufacturers happy. So Aston Martin is going to be the first manufacturer to launch this new CarPlay. If you bought an Aston Martin in the last couple of years, you'll be able to take it to a dealer to get it uploaded. And of course, there's loads of other manufacturers that are signed up: Hyundai, Kia, Porsche, Honda, loads of them. The way it works is that Apple gives these manufacturers a toolkit or a set of templates, and then they can customize and tailor the way that the interfaces look in their various different cars, based on whether it runs on electric or runs on petrol, or any specific functions that that car has, and of course, how many screens it has and how big they are. So the question we need to answer today is, obviously, is this new CarPlay system any good? But also, is this idea of an all-encompassing Apple CarPlay interface that takes over the whole car, is that in itself worthwhile? To do that, we need to understand how this new system operates differently. The old system was simply a mirror of your phone and selected apps. You plugged in or connected wirelessly, all the computing was done on the phone, and the car displayed the info like a monitor. Here, there's quite a bit more going on. There's still some stuff that's mirrored and computed on the phone, but that's now mixed in with what they call local UI, info that's being taken directly from the car, like fuel level or speed, and shown through Apple's interface. Then on top of that, there's something called punch-through UI, where Apple allows stuff from the car's native system to show up in CarPlay, like the feed from the reversing camera. Oh, and to work, you need an iPhone 12 or later, and iOS 18.4 or later, and CarPlay Ultra relies solely on a wireless connection. Okay, so here we are inside the DBX, and I'm going to show you how the CarPlay Ultra system works. Forgive me if I take my time here, because I want to show you every single last detail. So, right here, you can see the built-in Aston Martin UI. I'm going to set up CarPlay right from the beginning to show you how all the steps work. Now, you can do it all wirelessly. It is a wireless system, but if you plug it in, it's just a little bit quicker. So for the purposes of this demonstration, I've plugged it in. There it is. Connect to CarPlay, enable wireless CarPlay, and then you get this graphic here, setting up CarPlay as it exchanges information with your car. At some point, the car is going to ask me if I'm happy with all of this. I'm very happy, car, don't you worry. And we'll just wait a second. Now, what's interesting is this is only the first time that you set up your phone with the car. Every subsequent time that you get into the car with your phone, it will boot up immediately. So the functions that run on the car itself, namely in front of you, the speedometer, the RPM, those will boot up immediately and you can drive the car away. And then the bits that run off the phone require the phone to boot up, and for CarPlay may take a little longer. But the point is, as soon as you get in your car, unlock it, get in, you've told them that you want to use CarPlay Ultra, then the car is available to drive. There's no logging in, booting up procedure as it goes on. You will effectively, from that point forward, use CarPlay Ultra as your interface. And here we go. It's very polite indeed. It's saying hello to me. You'll see Aston Martin and CarPlay Ultra logos on that screen in front of me. And that's the screen that I'm going to start with. because that's the new one. That's where CarPlay has never been before. This bit in the middle, for the time being, probably looks quite a lot like the interface that you're used to with the standard CarPlay. But let's go over here to this instrument cluster. Now, this is probably the most classic layout that you can have. You can see you got a bit of Aston Martin racing green there in the sort of gradient colors. You've got quite intricate dials trying to look quite analog, and then you've got a sort of info square in the middle of the screen. So if I go to this swipe panel on the right hand side of the wheel and swipe up, you'll see that central panel changes. There's not endless submenus. There's a simplicity to it which speaks to the UI that Apple has always employed. So there we go, Maps. In fact, while we're on Maps, I'll show you how to use Siri. So we'll ask it to navigate us back to the hotel. Take me back to the Ritz-Carlton.
Getting directions to the Ritz-Carlton, Rancho Mirage.
There we go. So we got some nav set up for when we're finished here. If I keep swiping up, we have our music interface. This is actually the radio that we're on now, yacht rock radio even, because why wouldn't you? There we go, your tire pressures, your trip computer with a really distinctive kind of Apple style to it. And then back to the radar cruise control diagram there. We'll leave it on Maps for the time being. Now, this is where it gets really fun, because you can change the layout of this screen in front of you. There's about 4 or 5 of them. So if I swipe left to right instead of up and down, you'll see they start to change. So here we go. Similar layout, 2 dials, speed on the left, revs on the right. You got your fuel gauge. You've got everything that you are used to seeing, but it's just got that kind of more minimalist now, more Apple, more obvious Apple style to it. I'll keep on swiping. Here we go. This one is probably the biggest departure. You've just got these lines for your speed and lines for your fuel and revs and engine temperature. And it looks a long way away from what you'd expect to find in an Aston Martin. This is where it starts to get quite exciting. Keep on swiping and you've got a different take on that kind of more classic analog style. And then another one, minimalist. And this one, full width map that you've got on there with just the speed and your vitals on a strip underneath. And again, if I swipe this one up and down, audio, music on there, or just this landscape sort of wallpaper in the background for a more kind of calming atmosphere. And I believe that the wallpaper on that instrument cluster screen actually bleeds off and matches the central screen, which we're going to check out in just a minute. Don't you worry. There's a few kind of cool features on here as well. You'll notice it's written hand-built in Great Britain. You can tell that Aston Martin designed this themselves, and they want to, you know, show off their brand credentials, shall we say. Right, let's leave that there, put a pin in that, and we're going to move over now to the central screen here. Again, this will be quite familiar to you if you are a CarPlay user already, but you may have spotted some fairly significant differences already. And that's because, whereas before, if you wanted to change the climate control or to change the radio or to change any of the vehicle settings, you had to actually leave the CarPlay interface, go into the car's native interface, switch what you wanted, and then go back into CarPlay. This is the key thing. You now don't have to do that. All those functions that exist on the car now talk to the Apple CarPlay interface. So let me show you what I mean. So climate control, probably the biggest one. Here we go. I'm going to hit with my knuckle, not because I'm a weirdo, but because I got greasy fingers, and by the end of this demonstration, the whole screen will be completely illegible. So here we go. You can change the temperature here. You can change the fan speed. Really obviously Apple at this point. You can see the curved corners, that really sort of stripped back, simple style, but it is bespoke to the Aston Martin DBX. So you've got 3 aircon zones. You can change it in the back, and it's as simple as that. You can sync it up. If you go into more settings here, then you have some shortcuts. You can warm the cabin up, cool the cabin down, you can warm your feet up, you can warm your hands up, and you can choose the type of ventilation that you want, whether it's diffused, medium, or focused. But it all feels very Apple. It's just a different way of controlling the functions that were already baked into the car. All right, we'll go back to the home screen now and then move over to radio. So as I said, there's now this built-in interface. So here we go. You can choose your favorites here by clicking on a star and then go back to your favorite channels and listen to all your radio stations. What's interesting is that when I plugged in my phone, it knew that I was a Brit and that my phone was registered in the UK. So it immediately changed the spelling of favorites, which I very much appreciated, and it changed the temperature into Celsius from Fahrenheit, because I have no idea what Fahrenheit means. Right, now if we go into vehicle settings, it's a few more fun things to look at. So individual drive mode, of course, this is how you tailor the exhaust noise, the steering, the suspension stiffness, all stuff that we're familiar with, but we've never seen it in an interface that looks like an iPhone before, and it's clear and it's easy to use. This one's interesting. So Bowers & Wilkins, this car has the top end Bowers & Wilkins sound system fitted into it, which has a whole separate interface for you to fine tune the audio. So when I hit this, it goes to a screen. Now this screen isn't redesigned with that Apple interface. This is exactly the screen that you would see in the Aston Martin native interface. They call it punch-through UI. It's basically, you can take pages that are very specific to a car and just have them appear through seamlessly inside the new CarPlay UI. Right, we'll go back. Hill descent control, audio settings. So yeah, you can change your bass and mid and treble, the focus of the audio, and all of this, as I say, has this uniform look. One other thing to show you in here that's quite interesting. So if we swipe left, you have this kind of home page with your what's going on with the maps and your music and anything else. Swipe again and you get to a new widgets page. This is quite interesting. So a couple of columns here, and you can choose whether you want an analog clock, a digital clock. You can have your calendar, you can have your events for that day, you can have the weather. So that's by and large the sum of it. Oh, there is one more thing I wanted to show you actually. Very important, this. The fact that you can customize the themes. So if we go into settings, yes, so all these different layouts for the instrument cluster in front of you, you can go into themes here, customize. I can choose which colors I want it to be, including this very fetching rainbow setting over here. The reason I like that is because we'll have a good look at that instrument cluster there. That looks a million miles from an Aston Martin, but it's got that Apple feel to it. It's got that clarity. It's got that simplicity of use. I think it looks really fun. I think, you know, Aston Martins, they can be guilty of being a bit serious, taking themselves a bit seriously. This adds in a whole new level of fun. And the great thing about this Aston Martin execution of the technology, at least, who knows how other manufacturers are going to embrace it with more and bigger screens all over the cabin. But you've still got analog controls down here. The temperature still works, the fan here, your loud exhaust button, your ESC off, all of these buttons and shortcuts still work. You've just got the option to operate quite a few of them through this interface as well. And sorry, I'm sweating slightly because we can't actually put the aircon on, or you won't be able to hear my voice. So that's it. Those are the main points I wanted to show you. I think as a piece of design, it's really, really exciting actually. It's just got that thing that Apple does so well that car manufacturers have struggled with forever, and it's getting that software to just be simple to use. If you're a CarPlay user already, then this, you're going to love it. It's fantastic. It's going to save you time. You don't have to faff around going in and out of the CarPlay interface. If you're not a CarPlay user, is this enough to make you use it? Well, I would say yes, because you only have to set up your iPhone once, assuming you do have an iPhone, and then the car will take care of the rest.
Speaking of the design, let's chat to the man who was given Apple's box of bits and had to turn them into something Aston was proud of. Marek Reichman, Aston Martin's design chief.
Okay, so Marek, was there, right at the beginning, any reluctance from Aston Martin, this idea of like another company taking over all the screens in your car?
Absolutely not. I mean, it's Apple. At the end of the day, I think as a creative, it's just a wonderful company to work with, and it's an iconic language, which is the language of Apple. So actually working together to create CarPlay Ultra with our own spin, our own take, our own individual unique way of applying our UI within that system was just wonderful. So actually it was double thumbs up straight away.
Yeah. Well, you're used to like total creative freedom, a blank sheet of paper, and you can draw any car you want. Obviously here it's a bit different because you've got kind of some templates and some tools to work with. Just tell me a little bit about how the process, what's given to you, and then how do you work back and forth with that?
Yeah, I think the process is always actually something that a creative loves, you know, and actually sometimes a constraint as well, because if you have a clean sheet of paper, then where does the mind begin? Where do you actually start the journey? So this was very much about, obviously from both ends, pushing as much as we could in terms of finding the parameters early enough. A lot of interaction between the two teams, and a lot of those meetings took place in Gaydon around product. And it was really from the first onset of the program about getting the Apple team to understand who we are, what we stand for, what our cars are about, what the heritage, the history of the brand is, and then obviously how we could integrate that within, as you mentioned, the parameters that existed. But it was very much about an immersion initially about who we are. And you know, the teams, they got along like a house on fire. Both teams incredibly creative, trying to push the boundary. And in the end, everybody loved the detailing that we were able to do and the precision. And it's just a system that kind of looks cool. And if it looks cool, a designer's happy.
Yeah, and you know, talk about it being, there's a load of Aston in there, there's a load of Apple in there, and you know, it's really prominent on the digital cluster where you can have that quite classic analog looking Aston, you know, that sort of subtle green color in the background. And then there's the sort of wild one that's just lines, and you can have multicolored lines everywhere, and that's sort of more towards the Apple end of the spectrum, that's more towards Aston. But I like that, it felt sort of brave and different. It wasn't just different colors on a similar theme. So anyway, final question, this is the hard one, because you've got colleagues who worked on the sort of native UI of the DBX. Which one are you using? CarPlay Ultra, or are you sticking with the in-house?
I'm in CarPlay Ultra.
There we go. You got to say that because the guy from Apple's standing behind you.
Get the gun ready.
As I said, if you already love CarPlay, you're going to love this even more. It's going to save you time because you don't have to flick in and out of the CarPlay software, but it's just so much slicker. Everything is integrated. It's got that Apple simplicity and familiarity, which is something that manufacturers struggle with so much with their in-house software. I can't wait to see what other manufacturers are going to do with this Apple toolkit, especially those who measure their screens in acres. At last, the Apple car has arrived. Sort of.